Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the webinar on continuous improvement. My name is Dolores Serafin, and I work for Alberta Agriculture and Irrigation with the Food and Bioprocessing branch. I will be your host for today's webinar. It is one thing to read about continuous improvement, also known as CI, in a book, but another altogether to speak with experts who have actually been successful in using CI to drive results, including in small to medium-sized businesses. Kim will be providing you with information that can help you establish a CI program, learn which CI tools can work best in your organization, and what results you can expect to see in your bottom line. Topics that will be reviewed today include: why does your business need CI? What resources do you need to implement CI? When is the right time to implement CI? A summary of foundation CI tools, and how to begin your CI journey. During this 75-minute webinar, you will learn all about continuous improvement. Before we start, though, here are a few housekeeping items. If you would like to ask a question, please click on the Q&A symbol at the top of your screen. I will make sure our presenter addresses all of the questions at the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded, and a link will be sent to you in an email after the live webinar. Our keynote speaker today is Kim Wolf. Kim is a senior manufacturing executive with more than 30 years experience in supply chain and operations, engineering, leadership, development, and coaching. Her areas of expertise are in results-oriented strategic leadership philosophy, keen ability to motivate and energize managerial and functional teams, proactive change agent, innate ability to formulate and execute plans both tactically and strategically, the what's next mentality, exceptional presentation skills and experience. She's a proven influencer at all levels of organizations. Our moderator this morning is Flavio Salinas. He will be asking our panelists some questions about their experience. Flavio is a process engineer with the food industry with 35 years of experience in food manufacturing, food equipment, procurement, and business development sectors. He has 7 years working at an Alberta livestock and meat agency as a project manager, and 7 years working with Alberta Agriculture and Irrigation as a business development officer with the Food and Bioprocessing branch. Our first panelist today is Corey Crease. Corey is an accomplished general manager with over 30 years experience in senior plant management roles. He has managed dairy processing, milk and yogurt, bakery production, feed and pet food. He has a well-regarded range of competencies demonstrated by a proven track record in exceeding production goals, managing and developing staff, building relationships, as well as focusing on safety and continuous improvements, finding efficiencies in order to deliver on shareholder value. Corey has successfully managed facilities with over 200 employees and a budget of $30 million. He has developed and analyzed budgets, financial plans, and has delivered on many successful financial plans. Our next panelist is Stéphane Beausoleil. Stéphane is passionate about food and healthy lifestyle. He has been in the food business for over 30 years. He has held different senior roles in sales, marketing, merchandising, product development, purchasing, and plant management, while living in Montreal, Toronto, and in Michigan. In his recent tenure at Montpac International, a division of Preval Ag, he has held the role of Vice President of Sales and Marketing, and most recently Vice President of Business Development for North America for all meat operations at Preval Ag. In addition to his duty at Preval Ag, he is the current General Manager at West Fine Meats in Innisfil. So now that we know all about our speakers, I would like to hand it over to Kim to start sharing all of her knowledge.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction for all of us. So I welcome everybody here today. We've got a very short period of time to actually go through a lot of information, but I'm hoping that at the end of this that you'll find one or two things that really resonate with you for your business, that you're able to say, you know what, I'm ready to get going and learn more about a specific tool. So that's what we're hoping to get today. So just briefly, I grew up in Pennsylvania on a farm, riding horses and having a wonderful childhood, and ended up going to Penn State. I am one of those engineering and math geeks I love that way of thinking, and I think that that's really influenced my career, and that I really have a very methodical way of thinking through problems. And I think as we talk about CI today, you will see that throughout the use of all the tools that we have. I've had a very interesting career, been very fortunate to work for some amazing companies. And so these are just a few of them. I have worked in consumer goods as well as food. I've done some teaching and some program curriculum development at the college level. And now I'm doing leadership coaching and manufacturing consulting, and I absolutely love it. It's a career path that I never really had planned for, and yet here I am, and I'm really getting to do exactly what I really have loved throughout my whole career. So into the information about CI. So CI is basically an ongoing effort to advance your products, your services, or your processes. So many times people think it's only about processes, but really CI encompasses so much more than that. It is usually incremental over time, and that's something that I think you'll have to keep in mind as you begin your CI journey, is that you're not going to get all the way to bright at one time. It requires you to be patient, to set goals, achieve those goals, and then go to the next one. So measuring and having data to measure your baseline, and then also, as you continue to make these changes, to measure that progress is very important to a CI program. This is a chart that I think does a very good job at showing businesses where they could be today and where they can get to. So the first block is really about firefighting. So that's where I find a lot of companies are, where every day you're fighting the same problems. You're just trying to get through the day. And that's very common. From a technical perspective, you may be doing, repair upon breakdown as opposed to preventive or predictive maintenance programs. Your employees are not necessarily involved in day-to-day decisions. They just kind of do the same thing every day. As you continue to start on this journey, you'll go to the project mode in stage 2. And that's really about employees. They start to become informed, start to become educated. I'm a big believer of explaining to employees what those acronyms are that we all use so commonly day to day, and they have no idea what we're talking about. But when you're putting KPIs in place, they need to understand what those KPIs mean, where the measures come from, and then what their roles are in trying to make improvements to those. The third stage is about process, and this is where employees become very engaged in CI teams. You see lots of teams functioning in different areas. They're engaged in CI activities, and you start to use some of the more formal Lean or Six Sigma tools. And don't let that be intimidating. And I know that that term Lean can sometimes have negative connotations. People sometimes, even now, even though that term's been around for decades, believe that it's about cutting people, cutting employees, and that's not at all what it's about. So we'll talk about some of those tools today. And then finally, you get to stage 4, and that's where CI becomes part of your culture. Everything and every decision that happens every day is driven by CI, and employees are able to work independently. As a leader, our role at that point becomes support for them. And that's really where we want to be as leaders, is to show them that support. So that leads us to our first poll. So what I'd like to ask you is, how far along in continuous improvement journey is your company according to those 4 stages that I just laid out for you? If you could just let us know, that will help us to really think about and know where you are and how this presentation might be able to support your journey.
Okay, we have about 60% of the people voted. We'll give you guys a few more seconds here to answer, and I will give you the results in a moment.
I'm excited to see the results on this one.
All right, 94% that's sitting there. I think that is it that we are going to get. So I'm going to close the poll here. So, oh, okay. So our poll results. So how far along? So we have 24% at the firefighting reactive mode. We have 45% at stage 2 working on some projects. We have 30% at stage 3 who have some processes and tools, and we have 0 at the stage 4 stage.
Okay, that does not surprise me at all. I'm glad to hear that we've got people moving into stage 2 and 3. I think that's amazing. So hopefully today we'll be able to help all of you, regardless of which of those stages that you're in, to either keep it going or get things started. So why would we do CI? One thing is that your competition is doing it. So if you're not doing it, you're probably going to be falling behind. It is the best way to drive results in a formal way that's going to be continued. Changing technology, if we don't identify where the opportunities are, we can't put things in place to address those challenges that we may be having, which would include new technologies. It will improve our efficiencies and reduce waste for sure. That's really, one of the key things and the key results that you'll see on bottom line results. And one of my favorite things is to engage and empower employees. I'm a big believer of that, and I'm going to talk about that during this whole presentation, that you can't do it by yourself as the leader of an organization. You can't do it as a team of 1 or 5 in a CI department. It takes everybody. So it doesn't matter if your company has, 5 people or 500 people. You really need to engage and empower everyone. And that takes some tools. They have to know how to be able to do that. So again, it might be the engineer or the mathematician in me, but I'm a big believer in data. You've got to start with the data. So that will keep you focused on where those opportunities really are, and it will separate opinions from facts. I know lots of times what happens is that, somebody who's senior in the organization will say, I want you to go and work on whatever that might be. They may be right, but they may not be. And one of the most frustrating things, I think, for a lot of companies is that they're doing CI, but they're not seeing the results. And I would challenge that most of the time, that's because you may not be working on the right things necessarily. So data will help you to really focus on where those opportunities are and how much it's worth to you. It also allows you to baseline where you're at today, and then continue to celebrate your successes as you move forward with those results. If you don't baseline, you can't really tell if you're being successful or not. And then also, it will ultimately provide information for cost analyses or for return on investment calculations. If you need to invest in capital equipment, whatever it might be, sometimes you have to have that data to be able to show what the payback is going to be. And so having the data is important for that reason as well. So when we look at data, there's the use of graphs is typically a good way to do that. Our minds as human beings think very methodically like that about data and looking at progress. It's also very easy to update, and eventually, as I had said before, you want your employees to really own this. So if you get really complicated, data packages that are difficult to access for the employees or difficult to see progress, see where they're at, they won't use it. So you putting all of your data into something that's very simple to manipulate, very simple to see, is really something that I would highly recommend. Also, again, with your business cases, when you present an ROI package or you present a business case to senior leaders, they want to be able to very quickly see their investment and what the impact has been to the organization. Flowcharts are also great. We're going to talk a little bit later about value stream mapping, and flowcharting is very important to that. So many times our processes are so complex, and flowcharts can try to break it down into more manageable bites that's easy to understand. It's easy to look at it and see who has accountability for which parts of the process. And it also has an ability to branch off, as you can see there, that example that I put up there, that very simple example. But, is the request approved, yes or no? We have to be able to do that in our organizations, just processes that we use to be able to have different branches. So flowcharts, it's very easy to visualize that, see it. I oftentimes do value stream mapping with Post-it notes, and we start putting the map of all the activities, up in front of people, and then we can easily move things around. And that's what you want to do with your CI process. Then we have Pareto diagrams. So Pareto diagrams, you're really identifying the highest impact items. So that might be, in this case, we've got a frequency there on the y-axis. So that shows how many times did we have a downtime incident, for example, on a piece of equipment. You could do that based off of minutes of downtime. You could do that based off of number of people in your labor pool, whatever it might be, but putting that type of data into a Pareto diagram really helps you to identify. In this case, it's so easy to see. Why would we work on anything other than C1? Because it's obvious how much more frequently that particular issue happens. So Pareto diagrams, again, easy to understand, easy to put together, and then easy to watch your progress as you implement different strategies. So we're going to move into talking about tools, and I picked 6 tools here that we're going to talk about. That can, if you talk with different experts on CI, they may pick a different 6. I picked the ones that I think have the potential of having the most impact the fastest. The top 2 there, the 5S and root cause failure analysis, are 2 that I think are fundamental before you even start anything else. And so I always include those. And then these other ones I think are very important as well. And we're going to talk about some of the detail of each of those. Keep in mind at the end, I'm going to have a poll that's going to ask you, which of these tools do you think you're going to start using in your organization first? So think about that as we're going through each one of these tools. We're going to start with 5S. So 5S means sort, straighten, sweep, standardize, sustain. Notice I didn't do the Japanese version of that. I'm not even going to try. If you Google 5S, you might see those each step might be described a little bit differently, but this is basically what it comes down to, pretty standard. So what it means is having the right things at the right time in the right place. It's not a housekeeping tool. So many people say, oh, it's just about housekeeping. That's not about CI. I vehemently disagree. If you don't have 5S, it is very difficult to have anything else in that CI program be successful, because you do need to have the right things at the right place at the right time. Some of the benefits that you get from 5S: reduced waste, because again, you're making sure that everything is operating the way that it should be. Improved efficiency, same reason there. Higher employee engagement and morale. I think most people prefer to work in a workplace that's bright, it's clean, it's organized, they have the tools that they need right in front of them. Think about maybe changeovers in your organization. And if you've got people running back and forth trying to get the tools that they need to perform a changeover, it's just wasted time. And it's frustrating for people, as opposed to if you had a changeover cart that has been 5S, so organized, it's got shadow boards where all the different tools go, then people are going to be much more efficient at getting those changeovers done because they're not running around trying to find things. Certainly lower costs. The benefit to start CI is that it can be fairly inexpensive to start. You don't need a lot of tools. You need maybe a label maker. You might need some shadow boards made. You might need some paint for the floor, but it's fairly inexpensive to start 5S. And the payoff that you get, you certainly get very quick payback on it. You also are going to incur a high level of standardization of processes. So everybody will be doing the same thing all the time. The same colors that you're color coding things will be standard all the time. It also will drive customer attraction. So what I mean by that is that if you've got customers or potential customers that are going to do a plant tour, Imagine what it's like coming into a chaotic, perhaps dirty, unorganized environment, and what message they may be hearing, versus if you have a customer that comes in and sees everything as bright and organized, and people are not running around in an environment of chaos because they've got everything that they need where they need it. So doing plant tours for customers or potential customers really elevates that level of pride that we would have. Next, we're going to move on to root cause failure analysis, or our CFA. Again, this is the second of the two fundamental foundation tools that I think that I would recommend that companies start with. So we start with the 5 whys. So many people think that they do this correctly, but when I'm teaching 5 whys and root cause failure analysis to teams, what it often happens is that people end up giving 5 potential reasons why something has occurred. That's not what the 5 whys are. The 5 whys is that you start with one reason, you base your next why off of the answer to the previous why, etc., all the way through. And statistics have proven that by the time you get to that 5th why, you're going to have the true root cause of an issue. So when you work on that, when you put something in place to counter that, have you fixed it forever? And you're much more likely to fix it forever by using that 5 why process and getting to that 5th why. Every once in a great while, I may have a process that I've seen that, maybe by the 3rd or the 4th why, you're getting to the root cause and you don't have to go any further, but that's very, very rare. Sometimes when you're in the middle of it yourself, it's hard because you've already got a preconceived notion of what you think the answer is of why something had happened. And so you end up getting stuck in that process. You get stuck on that 3rd why. And then companies may bring me in and say, what do we do? We can't go any further than this. Or what do we do? We think we put something in place and yet it hasn't fixed it forever. It happened again the next day. So sometimes you need somebody outside of that process to really challenge you and challenge the answers to the questions that you're getting about each one of those whys. So again, it's very fundamental. If you get to the end, you put your action plan in place, ask yourself, if we implement this plan, have we fixed it forever? And if you haven't, you got to go back to the beginning and do it again, because that's the intent of root cause failure analysis. It will guide you to work on the right things to get a bigger bang for your buck. We also will use fishbone diagrams when it comes to root cause failure analysis. So this is a really great tool. On the center line there, I've got an example there of just product losses. But you could, it could be any problem that you may have. It might be, employee absenteeism. It might be various things, whatever your issue is. And then you look at the environment, method, man, material, and machine. Those are standard. So you'll come up with what are the things in our environment that could impact product losses? What are the things within method that could impact product losses? Then you start to go through each one of those things and say, is this an issue for us or not? If it's not, then you don't need to worry about it in this particular case. But if it is, that might be where then you start to do your 5 whys and figure out what of those potential causes, which one of those are the ones that really is going to have an impact on, in this example, product losses. So the benefits of root cause failure analysis is that you're fixing it forever, getting out of that firefighting mode. Imagine your day if you didn't have to deal with the same thing again tomorrow or next week, if you truly fixed it forever. So when I've been trying to motivate teams of, large teams of people to say, they're saying, why should we get involved in this? Well, because just imagine what your day would look like. Imagine what your workspace would look like. If you could take that one thing that's bothering you, that every day you have to fight, and we get to not deal with that anymore. Imagine. And of course, most people say, yep, I'm signing up for that. It will improve your reliability, so your OEE or efficiency measures for sure, your plant productivity. Having more of a link between your plant production schedule and actual delivery, that will certainly help that. It will also involve some of your suppliers potentially. I used to do root cause failure analysis with suppliers directly, as opposed to talking about them behind their back, but get them involved with the process. It will also minimize your downtime, which is money, of course, and then reduce and eliminate that firefighting that we talked about before. So we'll move on to waste elimination. So there's all kinds of waste. We oftentimes think of waste as just product waste. In reality, it could be lots of things. It could be raw materials or finished product materials. It could be a waste of labor, of people. And right now, we know that that can be very expensive. Many times our budgets at our plant facilities, labor is where we're spending our money. So you don't want to have any waste on that. Time could be that we're wasting time. Energy, and energy meaning, hydro or water, and space as well. And so many companies I know are saying, oh my gosh, I'm out of space, but I can't do any more brick and mortar expansions. I can't. So how do we best utilize the space that we currently have? You'll notice on this slide that I have elimination there as opposed to reduction. And I do that on purpose because you truly can get rid of waste. It should not be something that we just have a budgeted line item for and think, well, it's in the budget, so we're covered. That's an opportunity for all of us, I think, to truly eliminate waste, and it can be done. Right now, up to 40% of all food is lost throughout the supply chain process. So think about that. And that doesn't necessarily mean only at your facility, but if you're getting in raw materials, you've got farmers or growers who have, lost a certain percentage, and then the shipping to get it to your facility, another percentage, and then your processing of it, another percentage, and then finished product getting to retail stores, another percentage. And then you've got the consumers, which will also lose it. So 40% is a big number, but because we as producers, as manufacturers, have such a lot of opportunity within that supply chain process, we can have the biggest impact on that, reducing that 40%. So if you look at from a social perspective, social responsibility, each one of those 5% is worth 100 million meals if you look at it across Canada. So think about where in your process that can happen and what do you have control over. And again, that data that we talked about earlier, trying to put that data in place to make sure that we can identify where those opportunities are. There are some, when you talk about food in particular, there's certainly some technologies that you could invest in to reduce waste. So packaging. Sorry? Oh, okay, I heard somebody come on the line there. Packaging, so airtight, aseptic, controlled atmosphere. Those are all, fairly new technologies within packaging that you could implement. Also processes like canning, pasteurization, and freezing to extend shelf life. So again, using that data, and the data can be measured if you're looking at waste in pounds, in cases, or dollars, depending if you're looking at finished product, raw materials, labor, all those things that we talked about. So the benefits of waste elimination, certainly cost, that's an obvious one. 5S, not having things sitting around on the, on the floor and all over the place. From a food safety perspective, also very, very important. It's tougher to make sure that you are maintaining your food safety standards if things are falling off the conveyor belts and people are having to rework product. It just exposes you a bit more. Quality, obvious one there. Production scheduling. We know that when we develop a production schedule, if our waste is high, we have to somehow account for that when we're putting our production schedule together. And then customer expectations. Again, if you're having customers that are coming into your facility and touring and there's stuff all over the floor, or people that are just standing around doing nothing, it certainly sends a message that we don't necessarily want to send. And also from a customer expectation, they're not going to be willing to pay for waste. So, that's not something they want to pay for finished product that's usable to them and to their business or to their consumers. So again, benefits are huge for that. Team development. When I talk about team development, I'm talking about teams that are formalized. So teams that have charters in place, that have goals and metrics that have been developed, that you can use that data in order to track, that have meeting rules, and everybody's got roles in those meetings, and developing an action plan with accountabilities and completion dates on it. I'm a huge proponent of formal team development. It's not like a joint health and safety committee that you're just going to have a meeting once a month and just kind of give people a bunch of data and then they leave and come back the next month with their cup of coffee in their hand. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about teams where people have things assigned to them, that they're very involved, they're tracking their goals. That's really what you need in a CI process. So it will increase your employee engagement for sure. People, their accountability will be increased. They will be expected to show up every day and give 100%. And that's always something when I've managed facilities that I've said is, I can't do this by myself. I need to have every single person here giving me their very best every day. But they don't know how to do that. On a team, you're giving them the tools to be able to do that and to track that. It will give them skills that they didn't even know that they had. When they start maybe presenting material or data, or they're presenting a project that they did, that's pretty cool to see people develop. It will allow you to get a lot more done. As I said, I can't do it by myself. My direct staff can't do it. Everybody needs to be involved. And it will also help you to standardize your processes. So we'll move on now to value stream mapping. I referred to that earlier when we talked about flow charts. This is an example of what a value stream map looks like. So it really starts from the time that you get an order until the time you ship out that product, that finished product. You measure each activity on each step. You also measure how many people, and then you'll think about the time that it takes for that particular activity to be done, as well as the time in between, where maybe you're waiting for something to be done. And then you identify which of those activities are value add. So which are the things that have to be done that are truly making this product valuable, that there's something there that the customer is looking for, versus the non-value added time, the waiting time, the rework time, those kind of things. So the transportation back and forth between processes out on the floor, those things will become much more obvious when you do a value stream map. So the benefits, you're reducing waste again. Again, you're starting to see here as we're talking about benefits of CI and all of these different tools, that when you do them, you're getting the benefits across many, many different aspects of the business. You're identifying bottlenecks of where do we have to wait to get something done. If you do a value stream map of a changeover, for example, and you see that part of the line is done in 15 minutes, but the other part of the line isn't done for 30 minutes, and you've got the people at the beginning just standing around waiting for another 15 minutes after they're finished in order to start the line back up. It will identify those opportunities for you. Improve efficiency. It will also improve communication across business functions. I think it really helps to have different functions understand what other functions are doing within the process. And then here we are again, standardizing processes. Then we have our last tool, which is visual management. I'm a huge believer of visual management. It's a tool that you use in manufacturing to organize and communicate information. And we're just going to show you a couple of examples here. But when you're talking about team development, you're talking about CI, you're talking about improved employee accountability and engagement, visual management is very important. It could be because of ESL or literacy issues that you might struggle with. It could also be just a quick look, a quick snapshot. So here's some examples. You can see there that some tools that you can use, simple things that don't cost a lot of money. So communicating color coding things, having your daily direction setting meetings or daily stand-up meetings, I've heard them called, you know, on a whiteboard. It's just organizing what it is that you want people to be focused on. So here you can see that in this particular example, they're using Post-it notes that are color coded, and that you can tell very quickly those colors correspond to either an individual or a department, whatever that might be. And another example of that, here they're using the push pins on the left side that are color coded. And that's by, you know, individual of who's got what to do. So you can use these visual management and quality checks, efficiencies, labor pools, changeovers, really everything that you're working on, you can use visual management for. I very effectively use them for changeovers where I bought a countdown board, a countdown sign, that when they start a changeover, they hit the buzzer, it starts the countdown, and everybody knows that you've got, you know, 10 minutes, now down to 5 minutes left to complete that changeover. And everybody's working towards similar goals. That would be an example of visual management. So again, no-go pictures is something we haven't talked about. That's important as well. Again, ESL and literacy issues could challenge maybe what people are looking for from a quality perspective. But if you've got a picture of what is acceptable and what's not acceptable at the workstation, laminated, that's there all the time, it's very easy for people to see if the product that's coming down the production line meets those standards. So another really good example of visual management. So some benefits is that it saves time by organizing and simplifying sometimes very complex processes. It also can communicate to a broader team of people. And again, it improves employee engagement because you're giving people information. They know what's happening. It's not happening on an Excel spreadsheet in somebody's computer in an office. It's out on the production floor so everybody can see it. It will also create a safer workplace, equipment availability. So as opposed to downtime, it will show that. Increase in customer service, et cetera. So lots of benefits of visual management. So I encourage you to think about that one too. So what do you have to have in place for CI? You need to have good buy-in from your team, and that means good communication. So making sure that you're really sharing, again, don't do things behind closed doors. Talk about the rationale for changes. So why are we doing it and what's in it for them? Why should they get involved in this new tool? Why are you asking them to do more work? Oh my gosh, more work. In reality, you need to explain to them why this is even beneficial for not just the company or the team, but for them as individuals too. Listen to your employees, involve them in the process. And then I also believe allowing them to make mistakes. It doesn't mean a $50,000 mistake. It doesn't mean a mistake where somebody may, you know, get hurt. But you're allowing mistakes to happen because they need to be able to try things. Even if you kind of have an inkling this isn't going to work, do a risk analysis and figure out, is it okay? If it doesn't work, so what? They'll have their biggest lessons learned. So just a quick review. What is CI, incremental improvement over time? When should you do it? Now. I don't care what your company is, what your, you know, where you're located, what product that you're producing, you can start now. Who should be involved in it? Everybody. Don't think you have to have a CI department. I've worked for large companies that do have CI departments. I've worked for small companies that we do not even close. We don't have people waiting around to get new, you know, assignments on a CI journey. Everybody should get involved in it though. And how are you going to do it? Just talk about one of those 6 tools we talked about today. Pick one tool, one area, or just one line, and just start. Don't think you have to have this plan all laid out. Just get started, because as soon as you start to see the benefits, then you'll be able to, you know, justify what else you need. So again, here's our 6 tools that we talked about today. We're going to do a quick poll, and I would like to ask you, of those tools, and we didn't put waste on there for a reason, because waste, we could only put 5 instead of 6 of the tools on the poll. So that one's not up there. But of those, which is the tool that you think you would like to start on to start your own CI program at your company? Again, I'm excited to see the results of this one.
Do you have a prediction?
I'm thinking maybe 5S. There's
Okay,
not a lot of investment there, and you get a big bang for your buck. So we'll see.
so I'll just give a few more seconds here for people to vote. Our number is still moving up, so means that people are still answering.
Okay.
All right, numbers aren't changing anymore, so I am going to close the poll. So you were correct, Kim. 41%,
5S.
yep, 41% chose 5S, 15% chose the root cause failure analysis, 15% chose team development, 26% chose value stream mapping, and 3% chose visual management.
Great. I think that is terrific. So we kind of got some interest across all of those tools. And, hopefully at some point we'll be able to do more of a deep dive into some of these tools moving forward so that we can actually give you a roadmap of how to start using some of those tools. We weren't able to do that in, the 45 minutes we have today, but hopefully we can do that coming up. Oh gosh, let's see here. Now I'm not able to share my screen or to go through my. So that was it though. So I just want to thank you all very much. And I think we're going to pass it over to the panel now. I'm excited to hear from some companies who've implemented some of these things and some tips and tricks that they may have for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim. I'm just going to change our screen here now. Okay. Are you seeing my screen now, the panelist speakers?
Your screen is up.
Yep. Okay. Then
Yep.
Flavio, go ahead now.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Yeah, we have 4 questions for our panel speakers. So I would like to start with Corey. Corey, if you are ready. And then going with the same question to Stefan.
I am here, Flav.
Okay, so Corey, our first question is, from your experience, can you share your insights into the benefit of implementing continuous improvement in a food manufacturing company?
Yeah, so appreciate the opportunity here, first of all. And yeah, I mean, I could talk about this for hours. That's why I really accepted this being on this panel, because CI is very important no matter what you're doing. And I echo what Kim shared there. So by continuing to look at ways to improve, you can identify areas of weakness, streamline processes, enhance your skills and knowledge. This, of course, leads to increased efficiencies, productivity, and culture in your facility. Continuous improvement demonstrates to your staff that your company is committed to grow the business. I mean, you can say a lot of things. You can go out there and say hi, give feedback, but when you really put back into your company and demonstrate this through efforts, having a continuous improvement program, putting cost to it, your employees really get to see is that you're doing what you say. I echo the fact, yeah, waste reduction, I mean, tremendous. One thing I really, I continue to do from the day. I mean, when I started, you talk about waste, everybody thinks, yeah, waste is all part of it. But when you really start to educate your employees on how much things really cost, then they really start to say, holy smokes. So for example, taking a picture of a bag of flour and putting a cost to it to what it costs per kilogram, and then taking a picture of a pile of flour on the floor and expanding that out over time really opens people's eyes. So across the board, you can't say enough about CI and what it can do to benefit your company.
Okay, Thank you, Corey. Now the same question for you, Stefan. So from your experience, can you share your insights into the benefit of implementing continuous improvement in a food manufacturing company? You are mute, Stefan. We cannot hear you. Can you unmute yourself?
You're still muted, Stefan. I can't unmute you. It says you've muted yourself. There, you should be good now.
Can you hear me now? Sorry about that.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry about that. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today to the group. Really excited about that subject as well. In our industry, if you want to be relevant and competitive, you have to put that in place. So we strongly believe into that. In my current position, it was not part of the culture, nor in the day-to-day operations. It was a company under financial problems. So we had to really bring a new perspective on their day-to-day operations. So it's always and everyone's job, not a small committee's job, not management job. And that's why we try to communicate to the employees. Corey said it really well. We always put a number, a financial number to anything that we see or noticed. And that has more impact than anything else we can say about continuous improvement. For whatever reason, dollars seems to have a stronger message. And waste in food is very important. And how we do things and how we survive as a company in this competitive industry is very important. So that's basically how we do things here. We put suggestion box to make sure that people are comfortable sharing some improvements that needs to be done at the plant. Because on the day-to-day operations, sometimes they're so caught up in their task that they don't really focus on things that could improve their day-to-day operations.
Okay, very well. Thank you, Stefan. So now we can go to our second question to Corey. So what is one success you have achieved on this journey?
Okay, yeah, when I first saw this question, it was so many things I could talk about, but the one I go back to was in my starting out in the leadership and the management. I took over a facility that was very disorganized, poor culture, and we were fortunate because the company I worked for adopted world-class manufacturing and 5S. So we were in a position where we had a structure, and as a leader, I had to develop our facility into a world-class manufacturing facility. So when you go and you do that first walk, and there's so much work to do, good thing we did was we broke it down. So we had to break it down into sections, pick an area that was the worst, and then start to establish goals and targets where we wanted to get it to make sure to bring it up to that world-class level. So we adopted the 5S program at the time. Now it's 6S. We utilized Kaizen, TPM, and we brought our equipment back to new. We put the walls, we organized everything, brought in stuff to make everything in order, sustained, and we took a picture of it. We took a picture of it beforehand, and we took a picture of it after, and we used that room, that area as a model, and then we went on to the other areas, but we made sure that we celebrated the successes of that area to make sure, and we got the right people involved, because it's key that you get people from every department, so that, and you give back. So you celebrate, you have chairs, you put pictures all over the place, and then once you're done that, you find out what is needed to sustain that area, you learn from it, and then you move on to the next one. And when you move on to the next one, you adopt the things that were successful. You build on the things that you learned from the previous room, but you also got to remember that where you learned, you go back to the initial room and apply those as well. So it was just, we broke it down, we built, and eventually we got to the entire facility, and we brought that facility up to world-class standard. You know, I think it was 80 out of 100, because you got to grow. And then we became a primary manufacturing industry within the organization. There was 11 different facilities, and we were holding our own. So the culture was better, the employees were happy, there was involvement, there was empowerment, there were celebrations, and we really turned that facility around. And that's one I lean on to this day.
Okay, thank you, Corey. Now the same question for you, Stefan. What is one success you have achieved on this journey?
One that is quite recent here is to reduce overtime. So one of the problems that overtime was kind of an open bar kind of activity here. So we had to work on that. Main reason for that is that there was no backup for some key positions in the plant. So we had to create a program where we had 1 or 2 backup for each role in the plant. So if someone was missing for whatever reason, we could have someone that could take over. So, and that really helped. And we worked on that. We worked on the planning to be more efficient. We changed the way we process certain products to make it easy for people, and that really worked out. So we reduced from having about a 16% overtime rate compared to regular hours to basically 0 today. So it's an everyday thing. We get a daily report sent to the employees of how we did and how we can improve for each position to make sure we bring it to 0. So that was a big project. It worked really well. And it really helped our bottom line for the past periods because we really focused on that. So I'm really proud of our team because they got into it and it worked for us.
Excellent. Thank you, Stefan. So now we can go to our third question. So Corey, what challenges or opportunities have you encountered introducing and implementing continuous improvement?
So learn the importance of sustainability, first of all, and putting resources in place to allow for effective time to complete the task. So if whatever project it is, once you get it to where it is and it's sustainable, if you don't put resources or money or whatever it is to that task or project, then it fizzles. It doesn't progress. It also sends a bad message to your employees that you're not willing to stand behind the program or the initiative. So that's very key. You also one that's very important is you have to empower your staff. Doesn't matter what staff, who it is, whoever you choose to be on that team or responsible for that task, you have to empower them and you have to support them with their ideas, good or bad, and with what they need to help that program be successful. So, and then you need to be able to stand back. As leaders, sometimes we want to get in there, we know the answer. I think Kim mentioned this earlier. You got to be able to stand back as a leader and let your employees fail and let them learn. Let them, I always say the 16th hour, the 18th hour, let them get through that and learn through it, because that's going to make them better. And then their ideas, work with them so that you continue to have engaged employees. So.
Okay, thank you, Corey.
Yeah.
Now some question for you, Stefan. So what challenges or opportunities have you encountered introducing and implementing continuous improvement?
Getting employees involved, it's a #1 challenge. And Kim was bang on when she says some employees, sometimes they feel threatened by this. And they feel that we want to change things to replace them. At the end of the day, it's always the message that we want to make it easy for you. So you can do your work properly and focus on the right task that you're supposed to do. So, and that would be my message on that question.
Okay, thank you. Now we can go to our fourth and last question to our panel speakers. So Corey, what are some lessons or tips that you would share with anyone looking to start a continuous improvement journey?
Yeah, okay, so I this list could have been 10 miles long, but I just broke it down. I mean, spoke to it earlier. Break down your projects into sections. Depends what you're doing, whether it's 5S, whether it's TPM, Kaizen. Break it down because it's a huge undertaking. Until you break it down, you can really see what you need for resources. Celebrate your successes. Don't ever forget to give back, whether it's through a lunch or some kind of reward for your staff for all their efforts. Utilize RCA when opportunities present themselves, and make sure you have staff lead the RCAs. Us as leaders, sometimes we want to stand in there and be the voice. One of the biggest challenges and opportunities for me was learning how to be patient and stand back and listen more than facilitate. So let your staff lead the RCAs. Take a picture of your project before, no matter what you're doing. Always know where you were and where you've came to, so people can see the success and they're constantly reminded about the time they did this and how it made them feel. Set measurable and realistic targets, right? Look at it where you want to go and say, well, what's it going to take to get there, and bring it back a bit so that you're not pressuring everybody at this high one. Set realistic targets and engage your employees to utilize their time better, right? So, and always encourage. There's no such thing as a dumb question, right? One thing I've really started to utilize is the 8-second rule. It might sound funny, but sometimes as leaders, you ask a question and then you never wait for the response. Maybe give it a little bit of time, and you'll find that one person in the room that doesn't really want to answer right away. That's when you really get some of that feedback. So listen to your employees and celebrate your successes.
Perfect. Thank you, Corey.
Yeah.
And now the same question for you, Stefan. So what are some lessons or tips that you will share with anyone looking to start continuous improvement journey?
Getting everyone involved from the first day of when you identify what you have to work on. Start from day one, involving every employee. So this way they know they're part of the process and it's not directed to them. They have to know that they're part of the solution. So it has to be easy. This is our problem. This is how we have to do it. And this is what's going to happen. And Corey was right. You have to embrace and support their day-to-day, but also welcoming criticism on what you do and you're trying to do. Because sometimes you may have an idea, but it's not the way to get there. Your employees are the operational people. They know their job. We have to listen to them. We tend to direct a lot, but if we listen more, we get things done faster. And that's what we've learned the most here.
Perfect. Thank you, Stefan. And these are all the questions I have for our panel speakers. So I would like to thank you again, Corey and Stefan. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Dolores, for the questions and answers session.
Perfect. All right, Kim, if you want to turn on your camera as well, because we're going to include you in this as well. So just a reminder for everybody that if you have questions, go to your Q&A at the top of your screen and type in your questions. I will start with the first one, and this is to anyone here. If I wanted to introduce a continuous improvement program to my staff, which is one good tip to do this? Any one of you can answer.
I could start with that one. From my perspective, I think it's to let people know what I call it a compelling business need. But what is the reason why we're doing this? It might be competition. It might be foreign exchange rate has changed. It might be your supply chain has become more limited. It might be that you're trying to grow volume, whatever it is, but let people know why now. Why are you doing that now? And if they are compelled to be a part of that change in a positive way, you're going to be much more likely to get the buy-in, as opposed to if you just introduce a new tool and say, you know, I want everybody to get involved now. you may not have that buy-in like you would if you could give them a reason. And again, I always like to equate it back to also what's in it for them. You know, how does this impact them? So they may be a part of a, you know, bonus program or something with the company, although that sometimes that can get a little dicey if that's how they're incented. But, you know, getting rid of firefighting, whatever it is, you know, tell them why you're introducing this and how they're going to be involved in it and what's in it for them. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I'd
Thank you,
like to.
Kim.
Thank you,
Corey,
Kim. And just to add to that is it's important the team you choose. Looking at the situation, whether it's waste reduction, whether it's receiving, process, look at the team that's going to drive it. Pick the leaders, but also other people that probably don't have anything to do with the area. Maybe throw a few people in as well to get that other perspective, right? And step back and just start writing, taking notes, and implement the program.
Well said. Also accountability, and make sure that we personalize every request and the involvement of each person in that process, and that really helps them to deliver. That works for us.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So the next question is B. Next question is, what is a KPI for the new companies? And I'm going to add to that because I don't know what KPI is.
A KPI is a key performance indicator, and it's basically a goal, a measured goal that you're going to set. So if you are reducing waste, you may want to say that we're reducing our raw material waste by, 20%, which equates to 100 pounds a day, whatever that it might be. So you want to make sure, if you just do a percentage, a lot of times people are like, I don't really know what that means. But if you say 100 pounds of waste that we're reducing, now people can get their head wrapped around that. And I think one of the two folks on the panel there mentioned the picture. If you take a picture of 100 pounds of waste and put that on the wall and say, this is what we're actually getting, and put a big X through it, we need to eliminate that. So that's an example of a KPI. And again, implementing the visual management with it, being very specific about the data, that type of thing.
Yeah.
You want to go, Corey?
Yeah, no, I did lots of KPIs. When I think of KPIs, I think of real-time displays. One of my facilities, we put in real-time displays of the line running, and it would show red when the line wasn't performing as it should, and would show green when it was, of course, great. So you could walk it through the day and see, hey, it's green, everything's good. Hey, it's red. And it really, the employees really loved it and really looked up and had a good idea of how they were doing on the day. So
that's a great example of visual management. Yeah,
that's right.
Definitely. So on our part, on the day-to-day operations, we reinforce some specs on products. So at the beginning of the day, we show what's good and what's not, of what we have to work on. And throughout the day, we do feedback on, are we achieving that or not? So it's easy things to do, but it's visual, and the employees get direct feedback. So it doesn't take long for them to really improve and get better.
Yeah, true.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. So the next question is, comment first, then the question. Although I agree with letting employees fail, we need to be cautious as to not discourage them, otherwise they will stop contributing further. Are there suggestions on coaching or guiding them?
I can start, I guess. I think that having what I always kind of use the analogy of, if you go to your employees and say, you are now empowered, you're on teams, go and do something great. And you may wave your magic wand over them or sprinkle fairy dust and say, go forth and do your thing. They're not going to be successful. Your role and your job as a leader is to provide them with the support and the tools that they need, because they don't know how to do this. So giving people training, giving people, very specific check-ins from you, check in with the team now and then. You don't necessarily need to be on the team. And in fact, I would encourage you not to be, but checking in with them, getting minutes and asking questions about what the team's working on. Where are your roadblocks? What do you need from me? Those are the types of supports that we can give to them. When they do make a mistake, to be able to say, okay, we learned from that. What are you going to do next? What's next? What do we do to get back on track? That's a good way to minimize the error that they've made, bring forth the lessons that came from that, and then encourage them to move, on to something else to try. It doesn't mean you've got all these things all over the place that are failing and not going well. That would create chaos as well. But if they've used the tools and so they're methodically thinking through things, then they should be working on the right things. They've got the tools to use to know which one that they would use in this particular circumstance. But you may have failure. You will have failures now and then. But it doesn't mean that everything that they try, you should just be allowing that to happen. That's chaos. But if you're doing it in a systematic way, which is what CI is really about, you shouldn't have that all the time, but you will have it occasionally. So just not letting them dwell in it and asking that question of what's next, I think is a really good supportive tool that you as a leader can provide to your teams of people.
Yeah, and us as leaders, we assess the risk, so we know, like you said, if it's a $50,000 mistake, we're gonna be there with them, whether it's holding their hand, supporting. So regular follow-up, frequent meetings, making sure that the employee knows you got their back, be consistent. It's how you lead. So I never leave my office without a pad in my pocket, a pen, making sure anybody talks to me, doesn't matter who it is, take those notes down so they know you're a supportive leader. And then do your due diligence in the team you choose and the people you choose. Know the task yourself. So when you delegate, you can see when it's going off the rails and you can offer your support when needed or jump in, because there might be some employees that are too proud to tell you they're failing or too proud to say, I need help. So if you know it, you can kind of watch it, step in when you need, and just give them enough rope so that they don't hang themselves.
I totally agree. The quicker the feedback, the easier it is for the employees, and the more success you're going to get and confidence from them. If you wait too long, then they go in the wrong direction there. It's difficult to bring them back. So the quicker you give feedback, the faster you get results.
Well said.
All right, next question. How does CI help to reduce costs and increase sales while having a harmonious and standard process between quality, safety, and customer satisfaction?
Well,
For continuous improvement, for our part, is one part of our whole process. So it's important, but it's only one part of it. So, but it has to be part of the whole process. So that's all I can say here.
Yeah, you get your employees involved, whatever department it is. Say it's warehousing, other employees see if you take somebody from another department to help out, they see what it's done to that area. They're going to be waiting passionately for when you come over to their area to help them if there's an issue. So, like I said, I mean that's a wide angle question where it can go in many different ways, but continuous improvement across the board. And I think Kim said it well earlier. It doesn't matter if it's in waste, doesn't matter if it's in process flow, doesn't matter if it's in HR, employee relations, right? It can go all over the place.
Great, fantastic. At this point, there are no other questions. Oh, nope, no more questions. Something else just popped up, but it was not a question. So I would like to take the time to thank Kim, Corey, and Stefan for joining us today and sharing all of your knowledge. I always learn lots on our webinars, so thank you very much, all of you. And so to everybody else on the webinar, thank you for taking your time out to join us today. You will receive a short survey at the end of this webinar, and your help will be great for helping us determine what other webinars we should organize for you. The survey should take you no more than a couple of minutes, very short and sweet. So we also have another webinar happening on February 15th at 1:30 p.m. entitled How to Win on Amazon, Debunking the Myths and Misconceptions for Food Brands. And we will send a link to register for that webinar in our follow-up email that we will send you later today or maybe tomorrow. So I would like just to say thank you everyone for joining us and have a great rest of your day. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.